Okay.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Doing good, Clint. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well, man. I suppose well, I think you kind of know why you're on here, but I wanted to kind of slow down and back up and one, just welcome you on here. And then two, answer any questions you might have about why you're on here. And three, just celebrate what I've been told about you. So have they told you why I'm talking to you right now?
Well, yeah, Brainy's done a great job bringing me up to speed. Unfortunately, I haven't been part of any of the team breakfast where you were there.
Yeah.
I have, I've read up on the stuff. I've actually used the printout that you sent over.
Oh, cool.
I use that for two different trainings already. I've got a couple of groups on either side of town of what I call the leadership mindset. And we've already gone through these 5 points and whatnot. We're going to be training on this for a while. So really good stuff.
That's awesome. Well, for the viewers that are going to watch this later, I'll get us all up to speed. So one of the reasons I started Chalk Talk is because one, it's a huge privilege and a real pleasure to be able to go all around and talk to companies and all this other stuff about what I've learned along the way. But I have two problems with being a keynote speaker. One, there's never really enough time for the Q&A, which Q&A is really an opportunity for me to learn from the people that are in the audience. And then two, there's never really an opportunity, long enough opportunity to visit with people who down in front of the stage once the whole thing's over. So for me, I always kind of mourn the opportunity to learn from the people that had to listen to me talk. And so I always wish I could learn more. And Q&A is kind of how I get to do that. When I work with young veterans about how to become speakers, I go, hey, listen, a great speech is just answering the questions you think someone would ask you before they ask you. And so for me, I came up with Chalk Talk as a way to go back and just visit with some of the most fascinating companies and the people who run those companies and drive those companies, because I never really get a chance to do that. So that was the origins of Chalk Talk. And as it relates to kind of the Milestone tribe, the Milestone family,
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched this from the beginning for years and years. I've just seen consistency of culture. So when I brought it up to Gus and everybody else, I was like, hey, can I have an opportunity to learn more from the people that help lead your company? And when I say lead, I don't mean that positionally, and it's worth a half second on this. And I think I've said it in the other interviews, but one of the things I say is like, hey, leading is a verb. And if you're leading, you're a leader. If you're driving, you're a driver. If you're swimming, you're a swimmer. If you're diving, you're a diver. We're defined by our actions. And so when you're leading, by definition, you're a leader. And I define leading as being looked to in a particular moment to make a decision or perform an action based on your unique gifts and abilities. I'll say it again. Leading is being looked to in a particular moment to make a decision or perform an action based on your unique gifts and abilities. So everybody in the Milestone organization is a leader. All rank and role really describe is how many people are hoping you get it right when it's your turn to wear the weight, right?
Yeah.
And so when I talk about visiting with people in a company that are leading it, I mean that regardless of rank, role, position. And for me, a lot of times it's really fun to visit with people who, if they do their job, they're kind of invisible, right? Like, how do you celebrate the invisible folks that if they do their job, you just don't really know they're there because they're that good at doing their job. So I came up with Chalk Talk as a way to kind of go back through and really mine those companies for people that embody what I call the pursuit points as good or better than anybody else. And with a company like Milestone, it's impossible to say that, hey, this person represents this best, because all of y'all do this really well. But there are people who tend to embody a particular quality consistently and at a depth and a significance that's worth learning from. And, we've talked about intentionalism. We've talked about authenticity. And your name came up as someone who really represents this pursuit point called curiosity. And for me, when I talk about pursuing elite, which is in snapshot, there's 5 outcomes: bad, average, good, excellent, and elite. And if it's our passion or profession, we should want to be somewhere between excellent and elite. And the difference between excellent and elite is simply this: is, are you done or you're not done yet? Like, there's an X on a map that people get to, and then can you reload or do you relax? And there's people that just kind of get restless at the X. And if people get restless at the X and they want to find this mist-covered ridgeline over there, they have these qualities that I've seen be pretty persistent on the ball field, the battlefield, the boardroom, and the breakfast table. And those qualities are balance, curiosity, tribalism, intentionalism, and authenticity. And I try to tell people all the time, like, hey, these aren't linear or sequential. They're like 5 lanes on the interstate to where we say we want to go. So there's no one that's more important than the other, but I will say that curiosity is kind of the catalyst for all others. curiosity is the one that prompts and promotes all the others. And so for me as a talent aggregator, I've always looked for the absence of presence of curiosity in the people I'm trying to do something hard with.
Okay.
Because if someone's not curious, here's what they're telling me. They're telling me they're perfect or they're done.
Yeah.
And so you can't be perfect. And if you're done and I'm not done, then we're incompatible. So when I see people who are curious, it is the most evident statement that, hey, I'm not done yet. And so you're a guy that's been acknowledged by many as a guy who's just relentlessly curious. So what I wanted to talk to you about, I wanted to learn about that a little bit more for you. That's why you're here. That's what we're doing with the Chalk Talks. And one of the things I'm always fascinated about, like, how did this kind of curiosity, how did this desire to kind of better, faster, smarter, stronger, where did that begin? Like, where did you grow up? How did you grow up? Were you around a family that was just curious, or did you have a coach? I mean, help me understand how that kind of got into your DNA.
Well, first, man, let me thank you for your sacrifice. I've got a large family with 6 kids, so thank you for your service and your sacrifice.
Well, thanks for being worth it, man.
Hey, man, it's not as pretty as that, unfortunately. It is had 4 stepdads growing up. None of them were real fond of me or my brothers. So
you know what's really interesting about that is adversity often is a catalyst for curiosity. And so it's unfortunate that was part of the circumstances you grew up in, but I see time and time again that there's people who don't yield to adversity, and curiosity becomes part of who and what they are. So it sounds like that's kind of part of your story too.
Yeah, that must have kicked it off from an early age. I headed out around 16, 17 years old to go conquer the world. Wow. And it didn't take long to, be very humbled with what it was going to take to actually, survive out here.
Where did you grow up from a geography perspective?
Right here in Pleasant Grove in Dallas.
Yeah, you grew up in the Grove. Yeah. All right.
Yep. For the first 10 years. And then I moved out east, out to Kaufman.
Okay.
Not sure if you're familiar with Kaufman. Yeah.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Yeah. And then I currently reside out there now, but, I saw mediocrity really quick when I got out into the workforce as a kid, and not having any other guidance. I don't know if it was a natural tick or what, but it made no sense to me to not be the lead guy at whatever we were doing, whether that be cooking at Sonic, digging ditches, running pipe in the air, whatever it was. I need to figure out who is the lead guy. I need to match and then surpass whatever their understanding is of it, so that I could be of more value. Maybe
what was your first job?
My first job was actually Sonic for a short period of time.
Best ice on the planet, man.
Yeah. But until I realized they halfway cook their patties before they serve them. So there were some things there, but I got out really quick, and luckily I got into plumbing. Man, I've been doing this 23 years. I got hired on it as a mule to tote pipe. And then I was given the opportunity when the pipe was transported to the job. Did I want to learn the trade? And within a few weeks, some of this curiosity you talk about had, you talk about it at the beginning stages of a career. It really played its way out for me that way, because I started asking questions, and a lot of questions, and I caught the attention of our master plumber, who took me under his wing and just started pouring into me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was there a person in your family or in school or a coach or something like that just kind of fostered that curiosity that you had? Because one of the things that's interesting about curiosity is, I tell people all the time, like, hey, if you're a great leader with a great plan, you can take anybody's questions. And what happens is when you take questions, you earn the relational capital that gives you an opportunity to say, hey, I don't have the time to tell you right now. So in my world, in the special operations community, we expect questions. Like if you don't ask questions, that tells me you've done this before, or you're better at it than I am. And it's not a statement of pride. That's a statement of, hey, we got no margin when we go out here and do this thing. So curiosity is mandated in there. And what I found is when I had time, curiosity allowed me to tell why we were doing something we were doing. And why is really where you begin to learn kind of the craft and the origin. You begin to understand something, right? And then there's times when I didn't have time to tell them why. And my guys would be like, well, he's never not told us why, so he must just not have time now. But I've earned that relational capital. And what I find is a lot of times curiosity is suppressed, right? And I think often curiosity is suppressed for the convenience of the leader or the teacher more than anything else. And I teach my daughters to kind of war against that. Like, hey, ask questions. Yeah. And was there a person in your kind of childhood or early working days or schools that just kind of fostered that curiosity?
I mean, honestly, I think I just started seeing the fruit of it more
Yeah.
than anything. There wasn't a lot of guidance, unfortunately,
Yeah.
through the years. And next thing you know, I have a large family, and I struggle with some of that because of my lack of guidance up to this point. But I think I saw the fruit of it really quick.
Yeah.
And again, like you put so well in the paper that I've read through, I've never had an issue being the only guy in the room that needed more information
Yeah.
before I could move forward, because I was not okay with just getting it done. I need to get it done at the highest level and then find another level afterwards.
And I also wanted to only do it once.
That's
Like, I had a
exactly
great
right.
coach who told me, do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do
Yeah.
it long, right? So
Yeah.
for me, the opportunity to kind of, it's the embodiment of measure twice, cut once kind of thing, right?
Yep. Yeah, it really is.
So really the promotion of curiosity in your DNA in your life was really just outcomes of watching people not ask questions, or watching questions produce a fruit that you just wanted to see more of in other parts of your life.
I noticed that you said that the when you get to the leader career step part of your career, the leadership season, complacency becomes something you can't stand. But I've been blessed with that glitch since I was a young man. That complacency's always seemed disgusting to me. I don't know. I'm just not comfortable around it. I'm not comfortable with a lot of water cooler talk. I mean, even to now, you'll see me just trying to grind, even if there's not some big task I'm conquering. Not really good with just sitting still and being.
Well, I also think that you came out of a background in some ways similar to I did, where complacency is an ambush, right? So if you're not doing, if something's being done, whether you're doing it or not, and if you're and like these young guys come up to me and they go, "Hey, sir," and they start shooting at us, "Which way do you move?" And I go, "Yes." Like, just move, man. Like, there's better ways to move than others, but like, don't let them get better, right? So complacency feels idle, and idle feels left behind and vulnerable, right? I think that's just kind of a part of our DNA. So you alluded to something which was really cool. When I describe curiosity, I describe it as really four things. I describe it as a creator, which I'm going to ask you about, as a catalyst, which I'm going to ask you about, and as a complacency killer, which I'm going to ask you about. And the fourth thing I describe it about is curiosity is courageous, because a lot of times the reason we don't ask questions is because, for me, and I'll only speak for myself, I'm afraid of the answer. I'm afraid of the work that comes with the answer. I'm afraid of admitting I don't know. I'm afraid of you finding out I don't know.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's just always been the definition of courage, is action in the face of fear. So in my experience, when you see someone who's doing this, you're around someone who has the ability to navigate fear, right? Because action in the face of fear, right? So let's go back to being a creator. Like, when I describe curiosity as a creator, what I mean is it just creates opportunities that otherwise wouldn't be here. It creates relationships, it creates experiences, right? Can you look at the last, would you say 23 years you've been in plumbing? Can you remember a particular event where the question created an opportunity that otherwise just would have never really happened?
Yeah. Unfortunately, when I first got into the industry, within 6 months, I caught on to some trends that we were not being productive or efficient the way we should be in the school that we were building. And when I brought it to my master plumber and was asking questions about the grand scheme of what we're trying to accomplish here with deadlines and all these other things I was new to, I asked why carry the dead weight of these guys who are more concerned with their 15-minute cigarette break. I could do this myself without them. And he looked at me in the same breath and said, well, take them home and take their trucks from them. And in the blink of an eye, I went from being an apprentice that was just in the plumbing trade to getting put under the wing of a master plumber, where he fired his other manpower. And then it was just he and I. And I didn't realize what I signed up for, because he took me to task for years.
Yeah.
Praise God for it. And that alone right there was the catalyst that created my entire career, honestly.
Yeah. And the question wasn't malicious. The question was observational. The question
I was asking lots of questions about the deadlines. I heard about the meetings. I heard about the goals and the objectives, but it didn't line up with what I was seeing. And if we really wanted to get those accomplished, why don't we just go get those accomplished and quit dragging this thing out? And just ended up leading to.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that's a byproduct of kind of a family of origin kind of season of adversity is you're always going to have a sense of urgency. You're just kind of aware that, hey, no one's going to bring me the answer. I need to come find it.
Right.
And in order to find the answer, got to ask the right questions of the right people, right?
Yep.
So let's move on to catalyst. So I describe, curiosity as a catalyst, meaning, there's only old lions and lions that don't get old. And what happens is old lions recognize that they're going to be in a competition. They're going to have to fight for their turf or prey, and they're going to have to fight another lion. And a lot of times the difference in that fight is 1%. So it's just a 1% margin difference. And you don't find, 1% doesn't come looking for you. Like, hey, here's this performance hack, right? You got to go find the 1%, right? And so what I love about nature is nature's a great teacher. And what I tell people is like apex predators, here's what they know. They know they're going to have to burst to defend their prey, their pride, or their turf, right? And they never know when. So they're in this constant state of optimization. Like a great white shark looks lazy till it's coming at you. Then you're like, oh, that's what that was built for, right? Like, you look at shark with like, God, man, great white sharks look like a lab. Just, oh, never mind, and it's hurtling at you. So when I describe curiosity as a catalyst, what I mean is, if you're a professional, you want to get better. And what you know is you got to find the things that'll make you better, right? Mm-hmm. So can you give an example of how curiosity was a catalyst? Curiosity kind of revealed that performance hack, that performance truth, that opportunity that otherwise just wouldn't have found you. You had to go find it. And this is one of the things I do think Milestone does better than somebody, like every company I visit with. And I've probably talked to 775 companies in the last 10 years, right? And all of them say the same thing. All of them say, hey, we want to invest in our people, give them an opportunity to be as good as they want to be. But man, for more than a decade, I've seen Milestone do that, right? And there's something that's amazing about your culture as a company, but I also noticed that it attracts people that have that as a personal culture. Can you give me an example of how curiosity was a catalyst? And then maybe some of the ways that you're trying to do it and Milestone's trying to do it and make it available to some of the other teammates there.
Yeah. So I guess when it comes to that, when I first started here, my very first day, the goal was to separate myself and make sure it was known that I wasn't here to make friends or anything else. I was the old school plumber and a herd full of young plumbers coming in and things like that. First day, first meeting, raising my hand and supporting management and the things that were being discussed in the meeting where they were hitting a lot of walls with some of the guys. And, just knowing then that it was time to raise my hand, ask the questions, and side with the fact that I'm for the goal of what Milestone has laid out. Because I interviewed here 1.5 years before I accepted the job because I've lived in this trade and it was too good to be true. So it took me a year and a half.
That's interesting. So it took you 1.5 years to overcome the skepticism, kind of
all companies our size, now this is all I've ever done, so I can only speak my perspective here, but all companies our size, I had done a lot of hiring and firing over the years because all I've done is work at the 2 companies that I'd created and built up. Companies our size work off of